This is the RamanaMaharshi Satsang. I'm reviewing and commenting on the Ashtavakra Gita now. So listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm not a guru or a teacher. Ramana's teaching of Advaita Vedanta is deep and profound, and I want to share it. I'm reading and commenting on the Ashtavakra Gita, an important text of Advaita. Today, chapter 18, verses 25 through 28. This chapter is about the peace of a sage. One who acts knowing this is done by the body, not by I, pure self, indeed does nothing, no matter how much acting takes place. The liberated one acts without claiming to be acting, but he is no fool. He is blessed and happy, even though in the world. Having had enough of the endless workings of the mind, the wise one comes to rest. He neither thinks, nor knows, nor hears, nor sees. They're beyond stillness, beyond distraction. The great soul thinks of nothing of liberation or bondage. Having seen the universe is void, even though it seems to exist. He is God. So let me break down these verses. 1825. One who acts knowing this is done by the body, not by I, pure self, indeed does nothing, no matter how much acting takes place. This verse reveals that true actionlessness is not about physical inactivity, but about recognizing that all actions belong to the body, not to the self. When you fully grasp that you are not the doer, but the unchanging awareness beyond the body and mind, action loses its binding power. The idea of effort or achievement dissolves because the self remains untouched by whatever happens in the world. This realization is the foundation of true freedom and inner stillness. Ashtavakra challenges you to shift your identity from the doer to the witness. He invites you to see through the illusion of personal agency and rest in the effortless awareness of the self. The more you recognize this truth, the less you are caught in the struggle of success and failure, praise and blame. By abiding as the self, you act without attachment and experience the peace that comes from knowing you are never bound or limited by what happens or what does not. When you no longer see yourself as the doer, actions arise naturally, free from resistance or anxiety. The burden of responsibility and control fades, and life unfolds spontaneously. This is not passivity, but a deep trust in the natural flow of existence. 1826. The liberated one acts without claiming to be acting, but he is no fool. He is blessed and happy, even though in the world. A wise person does not withdraw from life, but moves through it without attachment. Acting without a sense of personal ownership does not make you passive or indifferent. It makes you free. You remain fully engaged, yet unburdened by the outcomes. This is not ignorance, but the highest wisdom, allowing joy to rise naturally. The world continues, but it no longer holds you captive. This verse reminds you that enlightenment does not require isolation or withdrawal from daily life. The key is to act without believing you are the one acting. This shift in perspective dissolves anxiety and struggle. Joy and contentment come not because circumstances are perfect, but because you no longer depend on them for happiness. A liberated being does not reject the world, but lives in it without attachment. There is no need to escape because nothing binds you. When you no longer take ownership of actions, every moment is fresh and unburdened. Even in the midst of activity, there is an unshakable inner stillness, allowing for effortless presence and deep contentment. 1827. Having had enough of the endless working of the mind, the wise one comes to rest. He neither thinks, nor knows, nor hears, nor sees. When the mind's activity is seen as endless and ultimately unsatisfying, you stop chasing thoughts, ideas, and experiences. The wise one is not literally devoid of perception, but is free from being bound by them. In this deep rest, awareness remains, yet it is not engaged in the usual cycle of grasping and rejecting. It is a peace beyond thought. Ashtavakra offers a direct pointer to the stillness available when you stop feeding the mind's need for constant stimulation. Instead of seeking knowledge, entertainment, or even spiritual understanding, true rest comes from simply being. This does not mean shutting down experience, but rather allowing everything to be as it is without interference. There is a profound release and no longer needing to chase after thoughts. The usual mental activity of analysis, comparison, and seeking dissolves, leaving only peace. When you no longer seek to grasp or avoid, you rest naturally in the present moment. This is not ignorance, but supreme clarity, a state where nothing is missing and nothing needs to be gained. 1828, beyond stillness, beyond distraction. The great soul thinks nothing of liberation or bondage. Having seen the universe is void, even though it seems to exist, he is God. True liberation is beyond ideas of stillness or distraction, effort or surrender. The one who is awakened no longer sees a need for liberation because bondage itself was never real. The world appears, but is recognized as empty and non-binding. In this recognition, the distinction between the separate self and the universe dissolves, revealing the vastness of being. To abide in this knowledge is to be truly free. This verse invites you to go beyond even the concept of spiritual progress. As long as liberation is seen as something to attain, this means that there is still a sense of separation. When all these ideas of difference and separation dissolve, what remains is the effortless presence that is always here. Seeing through the illusion of the world does not lead to rejection of it, but to a freedom that transcends both engagement and withdrawal. Nothing needs to be gained because nothing was ever lost. Bondage and liberation are seen as mere concepts arising in the mind, but never touching the self. In this recognition, all striving ends, and what remains is pure, effortless being, free, infinite, and untouched. The verses reveal that true freedom comes not from changing external circumstances, but from recognizing the self as the ever-present witness, untouched by action. By letting go of the illusion of personal doership and the need for mental engagement, you rest in the natural peace of being, where neither bondage nor liberation holds meaning. And now video, a satsang discourse by Nome, without difference.
Reality is undifferentiated. There is no distinction between being and consciousness and bliss. Searching inwardly, inquire to know your existence and determine if it is individualized, that being the prime difference. Differences appear according to the definition supposed for the individual. Individuality itself being the first definition. So if the misidentification or definition is one of being an embodied individual, for example, then an external world is assumed to exist. If, however, you are not embodied, then what is it that is referred to as the world or the objective sphere of experience? If you are not the body, what difference could there be between the universe and yourself? Similarly, if through imagination limitations are further superimposed upon the individual self, then that individualized self is considered limited or bound, and the absolute is something distinct therefrom of an unlimited nature. If such limitations are not falsely attributed to yourself, where is the distinction between the absolute, the supreme, and yourself? Who is it that conceives of differences? You and the world, you and God, you and others, etc. The common ingredient is you. Yet who are you? Can you actually have an existence apart from that existence? Can there really be a knowing mind distinct from the infinite consciousness? Is bliss or happiness ever other than one's own nature? If you are endowed with a form, there is differentiation of forms everywhere. Does your being have a form? If not, what then is all this difference? If you are individualized, then there is all this. if individuality is not true regarding your existence. That is, if the self is egoless, what becomes of all this? Wise sages declare that all this is most certainly Brahman. Do you understand? If you do, then Brahman alone is. And Brahman is perfect. The imperfect individual is merely imagined. If we seek for whom such imagination appears, it vanishes. For it is in the very nature of illusion to be rootless. In reality, none of the different kinds of differences exist. Who are you? In the Shastras, 3 kinds of differences are mentioned. Differences between things of completely different nature, differences between things of the same nature, and there being one thing with internal differences. It is a description of one's view of Jagajivapara, the universe, the individual, and the supreme. None of the different kinds of differences actually exist. All such conception depends on the first difference. If the first difference exists, then there is all these others. If the first difference has not yet occurred, then all this is only Brahman, and the self is only Brahman. The first difference is the I notion, as declared by the Maharshi. Search for the root of the I notion, or search for the validity of the idea of the supposition of being an individual. In and for the I-less self, there is no difference ever. Realize this and remain undisturbed.
All right, and now let's take a few minutes and inquire. You exist. You exist, and you know that you exist. Inquire. Investigate within yourself. Can I observe actions happening without identifying as the doer? The body acts, do I? How does living without ownership over actions change my experience? What happens when I stop engaging with the mind's constant activity? Can I recognize that both my seeking and my distractions arise within the same awareness? Who am I? What am I? What exists? All right. And we'll close with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Namaste. Thank you for coming together, and see you next week.
Namaste.